All right, we're going to start here in just a moment. And for those of you that are online, if you have any questions in the on the YouTube page, there's a live chat. You can type whatever you want in there. Or after the workshop, you can send me an email. All right, we're going to start here in just a moment. Good, the sound's working good. So we'll start in just a moment here. All right. So on the YouTube page is a link to the PDF of this presentation. You can follow along with that, or you can just watch the live stream here. So let's get started. All right. Okay. So I like to call this talk, "You Don't Know What You Don't Know About College, but What You Really Need to Know." And there's a few things that I want to touch on tonight. Again, if you do have questions, please do send me an email, or you can put in your questions in the live chat here. So, what you don't know, what you need to know. The first thing is that in the mid-90s, the whole landscape of college admission changed when several publications came out with the best colleges publications. And probably the most recognized one is U.S. News and World Report Best Colleges. There's a dozen of them. Forbes has one, People Magazine, etc. And the ranking is broken down, at least for U.S. News, into these different subcategories. One of them that I thought was kind of interesting is the peer review. The peer assessment, and that peer assessment is 25% of the ranking calculation. And basically what peer assessment means, if you vote for me, I'll vote for you. And I think that's just kind of funny and weird there. So have you ever asked yourself, why would a college give out scholarships? Is it because they're generous and kind, or is it because they want or need a specific student? Colleges ask this question of every applicant, and that question is, how will this student impact our rankings? Will the student impact our rankings positive, neutral, or negative? If it is negative, they're going to reject the student. If it's neutral, well, maybe they'll admit the student and maybe they'll give them $1 scholarship. But if it's positive, they're going to go, how do we get this kid to come to our school? Let's give them a really great scholarship package. So when a college identifies a student that they want, that will increase their rankings in one or more category, that college will do whatever they can to recruit that student. And I'll give you a couple examples and stories of that as we progress through this presentation. So there's a couple acronyms that you need to learn, and the first one is COA. We're on page 2, yep. And then for those of you that are online, you can follow along. There's a section there where you can take some notes, or you can just take some notes on a piece of paper. So do write this one down. COA, it's cost of attendance. And the cost of attendance incorporates everything. It's tuition, fees, books, student ID card, parking pass, meal plan, dorm room, all of that together. What is that total COA? What's that total cost of attendance? We want to know what that number is because that's our starting point. And if you look at the in-state schools, ASU, NAU, and U of A, they're all hovering around the same dollar amount, which is about $30,000 per year. Now, if you're looking at NAU, it's a couple bucks less. It's like $29,000. And then ASU and U of A are around $31,000. If your student is interested in the honors college, so NAU honors or U of A honors or ASU Barrett honors college, you can add some dollars on top of that, and those are around $35,000. Okay. If your student is looking at an out-of-state or a private college, those costs are considerably more. One thing that I really recommend is for you and your student to visit some colleges. And there's 3 colleges that are right here in town in the greater Phoenix area. And those 3 colleges are ASU, Grand Canyon University, and Arizona Christian University. The reason why I want you to visit those 3 colleges is they're 3 very different types of schools. We've got ASU, large public school, GCU, mid-sized private school, and Arizona Christian University, small religious school. So I want you to look at them for a variety of different reasons. One is the size difference of the schools and all that. And it's not a big time or money commitment to visit any one of these colleges. From where my office is here in Scottsdale, it's like a 30 to 45 minute drive to any one of these campuses. So it's not a big time or money commitment. And so that's one reason. Another reason why I want you to go visit those colleges is because if and when you visit a college out of state, now you've got something you can weigh, balance, compare, and contrast. So when my daughter was looking at some colleges, we went on a big road trip and we drove up to Seattle and visited Pacific Lutheran University. And during the tour guide walked us around and said, here's our dorm and here's our cafeteria and here's our new science building. It's awesome. It's made out of all these recycled material. It's got solar panels, green, blah, blah, blah. And we're like, wow, we were kind of impressed. Then we drove down to Willamette University in Oregon and went on the tour, and the tour guide walked us around and said, here's our dorm, cafeteria, here's our science building. It's awesome. Solar, green. And we're like, wait a minute. We just heard that. Then we drove down to University of the Pacific, went on the tour there in California at that particular college, and the tour guide walked us around again, dorm, cafeteria, science building, green, solar. We're like, okay, cross that off of our list as being unique and different. So again, I want you to go and visit these colleges here in state so that when you do go and visit out-of-state schools, where you did spend a little bit more time and money to get to those colleges, Now you've got something you can compare and not be all starry-eyed and wowed with your first college visit. Understand this, when you visit a college, if you don't walk away with the impression of, wow, that school's amazing, I want to go there, they did a bad job. That's their job, to sell you on their school, okay? So during one of the tours, one of my students went on the tour at ASU, and the tour guide said that the cost to go to ASU, and this was a couple of years ago, was $10,500 for 1 year. While that was true, that's partially true. There's the dorm room and the meal ticket and the books and the fees, and then your parking pass if you got a car. Add all those together, and again, we're hovering around $30,000. Now, what if your student wants to go to a private or an out-of-state college? What's that cost? At a school like Stanford, we're looking at about $79,000, $80,000 for 1 year. And one of the rankings is most expensive college. And every year, Sarah Lawrence College back east, they like to claim the #1 spot. They're hovering around $81,000 for 1 year. So if you really want to scare yourself, do this. Go to the college's website, and in the search window, type in cost of attendance. It'll bring you to that page. Add all of those numbers together, and here's how you'll scare yourself. Take that number and then multiply it times 4 years, then multiply it again times the number of kids you've got, 2 kids, 3 kids, etc. That's enough to give anybody a coronary right there. And have you asked yourself, how in the world are we going to be able to afford that? And I've talked to hundreds of families over the last 14 years, thousands actually, and these are some ideas that they've told me as ways to pay for college, and these might be some things that you might be thinking about as well. And always the first one that comes up is private scholarships. My kid's going to get a private scholarship. So let's put a definition on what private scholarship means. A private scholarship is a scholarship that your student applies for and wins. So if your student gets an email or a letter, and that letter says, congratulations, you've won a scholarship, and they did not apply for it, it's probably a scam. Especially if that letter says, mail us $100, and we'll tell you which one you've won. So that's the first thing, is they have to apply for it. And if they win that private scholarship, it's portable. They could take it up to NAU, they could take it down to San Diego and go to University of San Diego, or they go over to Texas and use it over at Texas Christian University or wherever. So private scholarships are portable. Versus if they won the Wildcat Scholarship at U of A, that would only be available if the student attended University of Arizona. So private scholarships are portable. Now, of the $135 billion, that's with a B, $135 billion of financial aid that's available, less than 2% of that consists of private scholarships. So everybody's going after these pennies, and I want to go after where the money is. And the money's going to be in these 3 categories. And the first category is federal funds, the second category is state funds, and the third category is the big kahuna of the 3, and that's the college endowment funds. There are some colleges that are rich, and there are other colleges that are just flat uber rich. Harvard claims the #1 spot as being the wealthiest college, and the last time I looked, they had $38 billion in their endowment fund. What that means is every student that they admit, they could give a full ride to that student just off of the interest that's generated off of that endowment account. Do they do that? Heck no. So first idea is private scholarships. Again, let's not neglect the lion's share, which is going to be in the endowment funds. The second category of ways to pay for college that parents have told me is my kid's an athlete, and my kid's going to get an athletic scholarship. And I'm sorry to tell you this, that unless your student is the next NFL, the next NBA, or the Olympian, the likelihood of getting a full athletic ride probably not going to happen. Okay. Now, if you go to the NCAA's website, it does say that the average men's baseball scholarship is $5,800. That's way short of the total cost of attendance. I'm not going to say no to $5,800, but where's the rest of that money going to come from? It has to come from somewhere. So private scholarships and athletic scholarships are two areas. The next category that parents have told me as a way to pay for college is through our savings. We've saved some money. And I read a statistic that the average family has saved $10,000 or less for college. Now, how are we going to make 10 grand go where 100 should? Now, if you have saved up money for college, now the question is, how does the financial aid system look at that money? And there's three buckets of money. The first bucket of money is money that's in the student's name. And that gets assessed at the highest percentage, anywhere from 25 to 50%. And then there's a second bucket of money, and that gets assessed, and that's money that's in the parent's name, and that gets assessed at a lower percentage, anywhere from 5 to 15%, depending on what type of financial product it is. So sometimes just by moving money from the student into the parent's name, we could potentially qualify for more need-based aid. And then there's a third bucket of money, and that third bucket of money is in the non-assessed pile, and that has an umbrella over it, and that's the retirement system. So if you have any money in the retirement system that is not assessed in the financial aid formulas. So of course we want the bulk of our money to be in that non-assessed pile. Some families have asked me, well, JD, we have a 529. What about that? Well, 529s are considered a parent asset, and those are going to get tagged at about 5.4%. Don't hold me exactly on the percentage, but somewhere around 5 to 6%. So if you have $10,000 in a 529 plan, about 5 or 6% of that is going to inflate your EFC, your expected family contribution. We'll talk about what that is in just a moment, which in turn will force the student to qualify for less aid. Now, even though the 529s are considered an asset of the parent, as soon as we expose to the college, I've got a 529, they're going to go, that's my money, I want it, and they're going to split it into quarters. We want 25% the freshman year, 25% the sophomore year, etc., etc. So again, sometimes by moving money around from student to parent, or from one financial product to a different financial product, we could potentially qualify for more need-based aid. Now here's my disclaimer on that. Before you move money around or any of that stuff, you need to know what the ramifications are, both positive and negative. Sometimes it's smart to move money around, sometimes not. Each family and each student situation is unique and needs to be evaluated independently. The fourth way to pay for college that some families have talked with me is they've said that we want to just pay as we go. Okay. Most colleges don't have a payment plan. Typically, they're going to want a full semester or a full year up front. Now, granted, there are some colleges that do have a payment plan. For example, La Sierra University in Riverside, California. Last time I looked at that, they had a payment plan, and the payment plan was divided by 10 months, and then they charged you an extra $75 a month servicing fee on top of whatever the monthly payment was. So again, typically they want a full semester or an entire year up front. Again, typically a full semester. The next strategy that parents have told me is a way to pay for college is we're going to borrow the money, And there is a loan called the PLUS loan, PLUS. It stands for Parent Loan of Undergraduate Students. Now, theoretically, if your student applied to Sarah Lawrence College and your student did not get any scholarships at all, theoretically, that college could offer you a Parent Plus loan of $81,000 for 1 year of college. Please don't do that, by the way. But I want to tell you what some colleges have done. Okay. On a side note, I do have a girl who's going to Sarah Lawrence, got a really great scholarship package and all that. So put that college on your maybe look at list. Had another family who wanted to come in for a free consultation to evaluate their financial aid package, and they wanted to know what the heck it was they were about to sign for. So I do have a stack of award letters here, and the award letter is like an invoice. It says this is how much we're giving you in scholarships, grants, loans, work study, etc. And we want the award letter from each of the colleges before we make a decision, are we going to go to this school or that school. So the family came in and they were very excited about their award letter because it said PLUS $25,000, and they were like, woo, we got $25,000 scholarship. And I said, I'm sorry, nope, that's not a scholarship, that's a loan. The L in plus stands for loan. And they had three realizations. The first realization was, this is a loan, we got to pay it back. The second realization was, this is a loan, we've got to pay it back now. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that student loans are deferred as long as the student remains in college, and that's true for the student loans. The parent loans are due 30 to 60 days after disbursement. So if your student starts college in September, in October, November, or December, they're going to want their first payment from that loan. Okay? That was their second realization, we got to pay it back now. And their third realization was, yeah, it's $525 a month, and we can afford that on our income right now, but that's for his freshman year. If we take out a second plus loan for his sophomore year, that's an additional $525 if that student was to get the same aid package. And then if they did it again the junior year, that'd be another $500, and do it again the senior year. Now they're looking at, as those loans stack up, now they're looking at over $2,000 a month, and that's just for their first student, and they've got two other kids, so 3 kids total. And they're going, how in the world are we going to be able to do that? And I'm happy to report they didn't do that. They didn't go that route. In fact, if you go to my website and click on testimonials, you can see exactly what Denise said. Not only did we get all 3 kids finished with their education, but Courtney, their youngest, graduated from a private college, and the parents did not take out any educational loans, and Courtney graduated 100% debt-free. That's exactly where we want our students to start their lives, without all that baggage. The next way to pay for college, as some parents have told me, is using your home equity line of credit. You guys know what that is. I won't go into any details on that. And then the next one is liquidate retirement accounts. Please don't do that because retirement funds should be for retirement. But I do want to tell you what some families are thinking. Let's create a scenario where we've got a family of 4 and their adjusted gross income is $75,000. And their student got into a college that cost $50,000 a year and got a half scholarships, so got a $25,000 scholarship, and it's going to cost $25,000 to go to that school. So follow me on the numbers. So they make 75, and it's going to cost 25, and they're going, you know what? we've got money in our 401k, let's pull that out. And you all know the ramification on that. The double whammy is that if you pull money out, that you're going to get hit with those taxes and penalties if you're under age 59 and a half. We all know that one, okay? The second whammy actually hits them the next year, because at $75,000 of income, they're going to qualify for this much aid. Now, if they were to take out that $25,000, that would be considered income on top of that. So the next year, their income is not $75,000, now it's $100,000, and they're going to qualify for less aid the next year. So that's the double whammy on all of that stuff. So again, before you move money around or any of that stuff, you need to know what the ramifications are, both positive and negative. That's pretty much the end of the depressing portion of tonight. Okay. I tell you it's not to give you a heart attack, it's a reality check. We all know that college is expensive, and maybe we've seen some of the statistics of college. One of them is that a college graduate tends to earn $1 million more over their work lifetime than someone who only has a high school degree. And don't throw out of college based on the sticker price. Always look at all of the data and all of that before we throw out of college. So the first acronym we learned is COA, cost of attendance. The second acronym we're going to learn is EFC, and that's the expected family contribution. And the expected family contribution is a number that's calculated out, and that number is, that EFC number is where colleges start with financial aid. The higher the EFC is, the less need-based financial aid that student will be offered. The lower the EFC is, the more aid that student is going to get. So of course we want to do everything we can to try and control our EFC. So there's two main financial aid forms, and the first form is the FAFSA form. And if you go to online and type in financial aid for college or FAFSA, please don't click on the first one, because the first website looks and feels just like the real FAFSA, and then the last question that they ask is, would you like us to submit this on your behalf? And then they ask you, what's your credit card number? And they charge you $75 to $130 to submit it. If you go to the correct website, fafsa.ed.gov, then there is no charge, hence the name Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And the FAFSA is the form that will calculate out your EFC, your expected family contribution. Now, it's going to ask you 101 questions. How much do you make? What's your adjusted gross income? How much do you have in these various different accounts? And it asks a few other questions. And then it asks, which colleges do you want this form to be submitted to? And you type in the name of the colleges, and then you click the submit button, and it says, congratulations, your FAFSA is submitted, and your EFC is, and they give you a number. So you can't find out what your EFC number is until after you submit the FAFSA form, which I think is kind of a tragedy, because we should know what that is. It's kind of like going in to buy a car at a car lot, and you're like, you know what, I want to buy that red car, it looks really nice. And then you sign on the line for that, and then they tell you, oh, the car now is $3.2 bajillion. You're like, what? So we want to know what the cost and the EFC is before you submit these financial aid forms. And I do have a fantastic EFC calculator that we can plug in all your numbers and all that stuff. And that. So the FAFSA is the first form. The second form is the CSS profile. So the CSS profile asks all the same questions that are on the FAFSA, and then it also asks some additional questions. Now the CSS profile is administered by College Board, and College Board, they are the entity that make the SAT test, AP test, CLEP test, and a few other things. College Board was hit pretty hard this last year with this pandemic, that literally millions and millions of students, their test dates were canceled, and typically they'll have 1 million plus students take the test on a given Saturday. So if they cancel 5 or 6 sittings like they did in the last 10, 12 months, and it costs $50 to take the test, that's tens of millions of dollars that was lost by College Board from that. There was also an article that I read recently that the UCs are going to start their own tests. They're going to phase out the SAT, and they're going to start their own tests. So the UCs is the University of California system. So that'd be UCLA, UC San Diego, UC Santa Barbara, UC Davis, etc. And I'm reading this article, and they're like, because of the pandemic, we're going test optional this year for the students class of 21. Over the course of the next 5 years, we're going to phase out the SAT test. And as you continue to read the article, it said, and oh, by the way, we're going to have our own test. And if you're another college and you want to use our test, we can provide you with that information. So here's how I interpret that article. The UCs looked at College Board and said, $50 a test, $1 million, and 1 million students taking the test. We want a piece of that pie, okay? Anyway, I got a little off track there. So going back to the CSS profile, the CSS profile, they are the, that particular form is asked all the same questions on the FAFSA form, and then in the supplemental section, they can ask whatever they want. For example, MIT uses the CSS profile, and in the supplemental section, one of the questions that MIT asks is, what's your kid's cell phone number? I got a conspiracy theory for that one, okay? Another question that they ask is, what's the make, model, and year of your vehicles? Well, JD, why are they asking me that question? Because if you're claiming that your adjusted gross income is $45,000 a year and you're driving a 21 Bentley, they're going to go, those don't add up. And they're going to start asking more questions and stuff. Another question that's on there is, how much will your aunts, uncles, neighbors, grandparents, anybody else give you to go to college? What should that number be? 0, right? Because if we look at EFC, F stands for family. It doesn't stand for what's your neighborhood net worth, nor does it stand for how much does grandma have in her trust account. Now, if grandma does decide to kick in some cash, then God bless her, but don't have grandma write a check and mail it directly to Stanford, because if that name and address doesn't match what's on file, that's going to throw up some red flags. So every college that you're applying to is going to ask for the FAFSA form, and some colleges are going to ask for the FAFSA form and the CSS profile. And then there are some colleges that ask for the FAFSA form and their own proprietary form. So you see the trend there. Every college is going to want the FAFSA form. And I've had some conversations with some families that say, well, we make too much money to qualify for any of this aid. Why should we even bother with submitting these forms? And I say it's part of the game. Let's play the game. And what I want to do tonight is teach you some of the rules of the college admission and the college scholarship game. And one of those rules is submit the financial aid forms. I won't tell you the name of the college, but I'll just give you their initials, USC, okay? USC requires the CSS profile and the FAFSA form. What I have seen is students who apply to USC who do not submit the CSS profile, they are not admitted. The reason why a school like USC is asking for that form is they want to know, if we admit you, can mom and dad pay? Okay, so play the game. I had another family where dad made his income per year was $1.5 million. He had $4 million in his checking account, earning like 0.1% interest. I'm like, move it somewhere and get, anyway. Had another $8 or $9 million in a brokerage account, owned several multi-million-dollar homes outright, no mortgage on them. Just a very wealthy family. And he says, JD, why should we even submit these forms? Because I'm not going to get any need-based aid. My EFC is going to be really, really high. And I said, yes, your EFC is going to be really high, but let's play the game. Let's submit the financial aid forms and give the college what they want. And we did that. Well, the short of the long story is John applied to several colleges, and one of the schools that he applied to was one of the George schools in Washington, D.C. I can't remember which one it was, George Washington University or Georgetown, one of those two, which is predominantly a need-based aid only college. And what need-based aid only means is if the student is admitted and the college determines that student does not qualify for any financial need, it's going to be really expensive to go to that college. If the college determines that student does qualify for a need, they'll give it to the student. Okay? So in this scenario, John and his dad, because of dad's income, they weren't going to qualify for any need at this particular school. But I said, let's do it anyway. Let's submit the forms. And not only did they admit John, they also gave John $30,000 in scholarships, about half of the cost of the school. And Dad was ecstatic. The reason why that school admitted John and gave him some scholarships is because they looked at him and said, yes, we need this student to come to our school because he will have a positive impact on our rankings. Okay? The reason why rankings are so important to a college is because anytime there's an upward trend in the rankings, that attracts more attention. And with more attention comes more applications and more application fees. So 2 years ago, UC Berkeley was the #1 public national university. And this year they got knocked out by UCLA, so we'll see what the numbers are and all that stuff. But 2 years ago, UC Berkeley had 110,000 students apply for 4,000 freshman seats. And it costs $70 to apply. So do the math on that. That's $7.5 million that was generated just in application fees. So when that college in DC looked at John and said, yes, he'll have a positive impact on their rankings, they knew that they were going to make that money up on the back end through application fees and all that stuff. So again, you've got to understand what the rules are so you can position yourself to win. So there are 3 questions you've got to ask every college. And the first question is, how much need will you meet? And on my example here, I've got the cost of attendance as $42,000. And the EFC is $20,000. Again, I'm just making up numbers here. We qualified for $22,000 of need. I like to use simple numbers, so we'll use some really simple numbers. Let's say that the COA is $30,000. That would be a school like ASU. And our EFC is $10,000. Now, I don't know what everybody's EFC is here in the room or for those of you that are online. And I do have a fantastic EFC calculator that we can plug all your numbers in and even see if we can manipulate that data to lower our EFC to qualify for more need-based aid. So in this scenario, we qualified for $20,000 of need. Now the question is that of that $20,000 that we qualified for, what percentage of that is that college going to actually give us? And in my example, I'm going to say that they're going to give us 75% of our need. And that would be $15,000 of the 20. So that leaves us with an unmet need of $5,000. Okay. Now our truer cost to go to this college is they're already expecting us to come up with that $10,000 plus we've got the unmet need. So our truer cost to go to this college is going to be about $15,000. And this is called gapping. Gapping what they're giving you in scholarships and grants versus the total cost of attendance. What's the gap on that? And the bigger the gap is, usually the parents pay a bigger gap if the student is less desirable at that college. Meaning they're looking at that student going, how is this student going to impact our rankings? And the impact is going to be neutral. So that gap might be bigger versus, oh, the student's going to have a positive impact on our rankings. That gap might actually be smaller. So again, there's a lot of different variables that go into this. Besides, how much do you make and what is your EFC? Again, there's so many variables. So again, our potential net cost is $15,000. The second question you've got to ask is how much will be gift aid and how much will be self-help. And gift aid is scholarships and grants. We want that. We want lots of that. And self-help is broken into two categories, and those categories are loans and work study. And all y'all know what loans are. And work study is where the student works for the college or one of the college entities, and they earn a paycheck. And they can use that paycheck for pizza money or going to the movies or use it to buy books or reduce their cost of pay down their tuition or something like that. When I was in college, I had a work study job in the cafeteria cleaning the trays off that come down the conveyor after college students are done with their food. Do you know what college kids do with their food after they're done? Gross. I didn't last very long in that job. My middle daughter, she was sitting in a theater class, and the professor said, "Does anybody know how to sew?" And she kind of reluctantly raised her hand and said, "I hemmed a pair of pants once." And the professor said, "Guess what? You are our new costume designer." And she learned a ton that semester, how to design costumes and make them and all that stuff. In fact, when she was done, I asked her to make my Comic-Con costume, and it turned out fabulous, by the way, and all that. So the second question, how much will be gift aid and how much will be self-help? And again, we're looking at our scenario here. If we qualified for 20, they're going to only give us 15. Of that $15,000, what's the split on it? And again, just for simple numbers, I'm going to say that it's 50-50. 50% will be gift aid, and then 50% will be self-help. And the third question, which is probably the most important of the three questions, and that question is, what is the average timeline for students to graduate from your college? How long is it going to take my kid to graduate from your college? Now, if you go to my website, azcollegeplanning.com, and you're on your computer, on the right-hand side is a button that says college results. You can click on that. You can type in the name of any college, and it'll give you some statistical information. If you're using a mobile device, up at the top, you click on the drop-down, and it's in one of the drop-downs there. And it looks a little bit like this one. This one is NAU, and if you look at it, the 4-year graduation rate is 36.3%. And the 6-year graduation rate is 53.3%. Why is it taking these students so long to graduate? And the average graduation timeline at a state college, it doesn't matter what state it is 6 years. And the question is why it's taking so long to graduate? And there's several reasons. One reason is because a student applies for a class. I need to get into this 100 class before I can get into the 200 class, and that class is full. Then they've got to wait till the next semester, or God forbid, they've got to wait till the next year when that cycle comes back around. So that's one reason. The second reason, which is the most prevalent reason, is because they're flip-flopping between majors. Well, this year I think I'm going to try being a business major. That didn't work out for me. I think I'll try a philosophy major. That sounds really cool. No, I think I'll try this major over here. So every time a student changes majors, that pushes the graduation window out further and further, so again, changing majors pushes the graduation window out further and further. So one of the things that we do at AZ College Planning is we help students research careers, majors, and then colleges. So again, we can help identify careers, majors, and colleges in that order. When you and your student come in for the free consultation, I'm going to ask this question: what colleges are you thinking about? Do you have any dream schools? What colleges are on your list? I always love to ask that question. And occasionally students will come in and say, oh, I want to go to UCLA, or I want to go to Pepperdine, or I want to go to wherever. And my first question in the back of my mind is, do we even know that if that college has the programs that you want to study? Okay, so the first question we've got to ask and answer is, what career do I think I want to go into? And then what major supports that career? And then what colleges offer that major? And we do have, at AZ College Planning, we do have a fantastic resource and tool that will assist students with discovering what career to look into. We've got a career assessment tool for that. Yeah, it's just fantastic. Yep, I said all that stuff. So here's my story. Yep, that's me. That's my high school picture. When I went in to meet with my guidance counselor, I still remember it today. I walked into her office, Miss Nuss, and it was a little tiny office with one tiny window at the back of the room. And as I walked in, she says, "Hi, JD," and "Hi, Miss Nuss." And she continues and says, "JD, you're a good artist. You should be an art major." I thought about it for all of about 37 seconds and thought, yeah, that sounds good. And I went home and thought about it for another 3 seconds and thought, artists don't make any money. I've got to do something else. And at that time, there was a TV show on, and maybe you guys remember this TV show. It was 30-something. Remember that one? Okay. There were Gary and Elliot. They had an ad agency and had a beautiful office and all that stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I'll be a graphic designer. That sounds good. Also, at that same time, I was talking to a friend who was a freshman at Biola University, and he says, "JD, you got to come to this school. So awesome. The girls here are so cute." And they were. And we have the most amazing beach bonfire parties. And they did. We had some really great parties. I won't go into all the details on that. But I did have a best friend in college. His name was Bartles and James. I was 21, so it was okay. And I said, do they have a graphics department? And he says, yeah. And I said, dude, I'm in. And that's how much thought went in me picking my career major in college and all that stuff. And what ended up happening, and I highly recommend this for you and your student, and that is to get an internship. And I got an internship at the end, I think it was like the middle of my junior year of college at a graphics house. And I thought, I don't want to do this the rest of my life. So I had to reset and all that stuff. So again, yes, AZ College Planning can help with all of that stuff. So I want to tell you a story about Lynn. And when Lynn and her dad came into the office, I asked that question, what college are you thinking about? And Dad pipes up and says, she's going to NAU because that's all I can afford. And I said, let's play the game. And what playing the game means is apply to 6 to 12 colleges. The worst thing any student can do is apply to one college, because even if they're admitted to the one college, other than that college saying, yes, you come to my school, what else does that college have to do to get that student to go there? Nothing. Now, if that college has to compete with 3 or 4 or 5 or more colleges, then that college must offer some incentives. And the incentives that we want, of course, are scholarships. So as I'm having this conversation with Lynn and her dad, I said, let's apply to a handful of colleges. And ultimately, she applied to 7 schools. She was admitted to 5 colleges. And of the 5, 2 of them fell off the wayside for one reason or another. And it came down to these 3 colleges: Whitman College, Willamette University, and of course NAU. Now, when I identified these other colleges, and what was Dad's first question? Well, Dad's first question, of course, was how much? Well, about in 2010, these colleges had a sticker price of $45,000 a year. Today, they're hovering around $63,000, $64,000 per year. Dad had a coronary right in the office. We pulled out the defibrillator. I said, again, let's play the game. And I helped Lynn with her applications, with her essay. I also showed Lynn how to properly market herself, how to sell herself to these colleges, so that these colleges looked at her and said, yes, we want to admit you. And the first college that admitted her was Willamette University, and she was offered $25,000 in scholarships per year, and Dad's net cost was $20,000. Lynn was on cloud 9 for days. Dad, not quite so much. We still got a $20,000 cost. The second college that admitted her was NAU, and Dad's out-of-pocket cost for NAU was $10,650. And the third school that admitted her was Whitman College, and Whitman offered her $40,750 in scholarships and grants, and Dad's out-of-pocket net cost was $5,000 per year. Why did that college give her that scholarship? And the answer is because they looked at her and said, we need this girl to come to our school because she will make a positive impact on our rankings. And a couple examples of that was a girl going into a mostly male-dominated major. Don't ask me which one, I don't remember. That was one category. Another category was Arizona kid going to a school in the state of Washington. So now Whitman can go back to those publications and say, we have geographic diversity. We have kids from here and there and everywhere in Arizona, and yay. And that's going to increase their rankings in those categories, which attracts more attention, which translates to more applications and more application fees. So why did they give her that? Because they needed her. She had a positive impact on their rankings. Yeah, she had good grades and good test scores. That was only one portion of all that stuff. So let's do a comparison. We'll compare 2 colleges, and on the left-hand side is ASU, and the COA, or the sticker price, the net cost for 1 year at ASU is $29,891. And our EFC example is $8,320. Now, I do have a family, their EFC was $8,320, and we did some things strategically to get them to that point. So they had a need of $21,000. So we subtract 29 from the COA from the EFC, we've got a need of $21,000. Now, of that $21,000 that we qualified for, what percentage of that are they going to actually give out? And it's 61%. JD, how did you get that number? That number is published on the IRS's website every year. you're welcome to go to their website and try and find it. It's buried in there. If you go to my website, azcollegeplan.com, there's a link and a button for the College Navigator. You can click on that and it'll take you almost directly to that point. So if we subtract, so we've got they're going to meet 61%, which translates to, in this scenario, $13,162. If we subtract 13 from 21, we have an unmet need of $8,415. So of the $13,000 that they're going to give us, what's the split on it? And it's almost 50-50. It's 53% gift aid and 47% self-help. So they're going to give the student $6,976 in scholarship and grant and $6,100 in self-help for an upfront cost of $16,735. How did I get that number? That's our EFC plus our unmet need equals that number. Okay? So that is an example at ASU. On the right-hand side, we've got Claremont McKenna, and Claremont McKenna has a COA of $73,000. And our EFC is the same, $8,320. It doesn't matter which college the student's going to go to. The EFC is going to be the same number, a static number for that year, regardless of the college, whether it be ASU, whether it be Claremont McKenna, whether it be Stanford, whether it be Scottsdale Community College. That EFC is going to be a static number that year. And the EFC is going to change from year to year as we refile the financial aid forms, and your EFC is going to track based on your adjusted gross income. So if your income goes up, then your EFC is going to go up and you'll qualify for less aid. Or if your EFC goes down, you'll qualify for more aid. So in this scenario, we have a need of $65,455. Of that, what percentage are they going to meet? And there are some colleges that state we meet 100% of your aid, we meet 100% of your need, and we'll give it to you all in loans. Well, thanks, but no thanks. In this scenario at Claremont McKenna, they do meet 100% of our need, so our unmet need is 0. However, Claremont McKenna happens to be one of the wealthier colleges. They have $500 million in their endowment system, and they are very generous with aid, and they will give out 92% in gift aid. So in this scenario, this student could potentially get $60,000 in scholarship or grant. And then self-help is 8%, so they're going to give the student about $5,237 in loan or work study for an upfront cost of $8,320. How did I get that upfront cost number? That's our EFC plus our unmet need, which is 0 in this scenario, equals that. But is that really our true cost? No, there's one more number that needs to be added in there, and that number is the self-help, the loan. That needs to be paid back in either man hours or pay back the loan. So in this case, at ASU, our true cost there is going to be $22,921 for 1 year at ASU, and then at Claremont McKenna, $13,577. Now tell me which college is less expensive. Please don't throw out a college based on the sticker price. We've got to look at all these different numbers and also look at your student's individual demographic. Where does your student's demographic fit? Does that student's demographic fit in the upper third, middle third, or the bottom third? And again, if it's the upper third where they'll make a positive impact on their rankings, then that college will make it financially viable for that student to attend that college. Now, I know you're waiting for this one. The number one way to get more money is apply to 8 to 10 colleges. I like to give a range 6 to 12. 8 to 10 is kind of the sweet spot in the middle, and then negotiate with the college. So when Danielle came into the office in her sophomore year of high school, I asked Danielle if she had visited any colleges yet, and she said, no, I haven't visited. I said, go and visit. And she and her parents did a little road trip and went down to U of A and went on the tour at U of A. And after she went on the tour, she came back into the office. We had a conversation. Hey, what'd you think? And she's like, that school is amazing. That's the school I want to go to. In fact, that's the only college I'm going to apply to. So again, what did I say earlier? If the tour guide doesn't, if you don't walk away from the tour with the impression of, wow, that school's amazing, they did a bad job. And in Danielle's scenario, when she walked away from the tour at U of A, they did a fabulous job. And Danielle says, I'm going to only apply to U of A. Again, what did I say earlier? The worst thing any student could do is apply to one college because they don't have any power. I encouraged her to apply to a handful of colleges, and she agreed. Jump forward to April of her senior year of high school. She got admitted to U of A, and her original scholarship package to go to U of A was $0. You want to come to our school, it's $30,000. And Dad says, I don't want to pay that. I said, well, what other colleges did she apply to, and what other scholarships did she get at those other colleges? And Dad says, oh, she was admitted to this college and she got this much money. I said, great. Take that award letter and go down to U of A and say, they gave me this, what can you guys do? Not only did they beat it, they also gave Danielle an iPad. Danielle was really excited about the iPad. Dad was excited about the scholarship dollars. Okay? So apply to a handful of colleges and then potentially negotiate with the college for more aid. So I want to give you a couple more examples. McConnell, he is finishing up his junior year at NYU, and he was offered $65,820 in scholarships per year, and parents' net cost $8,914. And he did get that every year. Going back to Lynn's story just for a brief second here. Lynn she did go to Whitman, and she did get that scholarship package every year, that $40,000 every year. She did have to maintain a minimum GPA in order to renew that scholarship package. What was amazing about that scholarship package was it also included 2 study abroads. She did one in Peru and one in Japan. Super awesome. That was covered on that scholarship. McConnell, he was also offered an incredible scholarship package, $65,000. He decided not to do a study abroad. That was his choice. I love to ask this question, what's good? Good is getting admitted to college. What's better than that? Well, what's better is getting a scholarship. What's better than a scholarship? Getting full tuition. What's better than getting full tuition? Getting the coveted full ride. If you talk to your friends and they tell you that their kid or that student got a full ride at ASU or U of A or NAU, be very skeptical. Okay? It's very rare to get a true full ride at those colleges. More than likely what they're talking about is they got full tuition. I'm not going to say no to full tuition. At a school like ASU, that's about $12,000 off of the cost of college. What's better than full tuition? Of course, the coveted full ride. That's where everything is covered. What's better than a full ride? That's this. And this is what Rohit was offered at Dallas. And I'll zoom in on it and read it to you. He was offered all tuition and mandatory fees covered for 4 years. He was offered a $4,000 per semester cash stipend, a $1,500 per semester on-campus housing stipend. When you add that together, that's $11,000. It was offered in stipends. And when you subtract that from the cost of his dorm and his meal plan, he was netting $3,000. He was getting paid $3,000 a year to go to this college in Dallas. So what's better than the coveted full ride? Getting paid to go to college. And yes, I do have students that fall into that category. I've got a student currently right now at U of A, and she's getting paid $1,500 a year to attend that college. Everything else is covered. Dorm room, meal plan, tuition, books, all of that's covered. I had another girl at Alabama, and she was paid $2,000 her junior and her senior year. The other 2 years, she only got a full ride. So, only, right? Okay. So here's another example. Nicole went to Wash U, $45,000 a year. Net cost $11,000. Bruce was admitted to Notre Dame. He just graduated this last May. $51,000 in scholarships per year, and he got that all 4 years. Parents' net cost $13,000. And Dad thought that my tagline, "It could be cheaper to go to out-of-state college than an in-state college," was just a sales pitch until we did it for Bruce. And he said, "Could you do it again for my daughter?" And yes, we did it again for her. She's going to Texas Christian University. I'll show you that one in just a moment. But JD, are all these students super brainiacs, have a 29.0 GPA, and have a 20,000 SAT score and a 20 million ACT score? No. Here's another student. I won't tell you her name, but she went to Spring Hill College in Alabama. She had a whopping 2.3 GPA. What was really amazing is she got a academic scholarship for that GPA. She also got a leadership scholarship. She got a couple other scholarships. And after we ran all the numbers, it was less expensive for her to go to this private out-of-state college than it was for her to go in-state to ASU. So again, don't throw out a college based solely on the sticker price. And don't think that in-state means cheaper. It's not always the case. Sometimes yes, ASU is less expensive. But it may not be. We need to throw a wide net. I love to tell this story about Tanner. When Tanner came into the office, he says, "JD, my dream is to fly jets for the Air Force, and I'm going to go to the Air Force Academy. That's the only school I'm going to apply to." I said, "Tanner, let's play the game." And playing the game is apply to all the military academies and every ROTC program and have a backup plan just in case that doesn't work. And he agreed to do that. And we had several meetings, and one of the meetings he came in and says, "JD, I've been doing some research on the Air Force's website, and the minimum ACT score is 25. And I took the ACT, and I got my score back, and I got a 26. What do you think?" I said, "Tanner, they're going to take your application and they're going to throw it in the trash." He said, "What?" "Because you're just barely above the minimum." So we plugged him into my program. I teach a variety of different classes, and one of the classes that we teach is called Beat the Test class, and we teach students how to beat the test. Every test, SAT, ACT, AP, all of those tests are standardized tests. Because they are a standardized test, they have to follow a pattern. So we teach the students how to identify those patterns. He went through the program, ended up, I can't remember what his score was, 29 or 30 ACT score, got admitted to the Merchant Marine Academy in Kings Point, New York. When you graduate from West Point, you go into the Army. When you graduate from the Naval Academy, you go into the Navy. When you graduate from the Air Force Academy, you go into the Air Force. When you graduate from the Merchant Marine Academy, you go into the anywhere you want. Okay? So when they were handing out assignments, they're like, Tanner, where do you want to go? He's like, Air Force. And of course, he went into the Air Force and is now flying jets. And we might be able to see him flying over Maricopa County sometime. So, yeah, I love that story. Here's another story, Jonathan. When Jonathan came into the office, I helped him identify a whole bunch of schools, and his number one school ended up being George Fox University in Oregon. And he got a decent scholarship package, and we're having a roundtable conversation at the end of his senior year of high school. And his parents said, we are willing to help you and pay for a portion of college, but we're only willing to pay this much. And anything above that, that's going to be on you, Jonathan. So you've got to cover that gap, whatever that gap is, whether it be scholarships, grants, loans, get a job, sell a kidney, whatever it is, right? Okay. Well, we ran the numbers, and Jonathan was $5,000 short of what was offered versus what his parents were willing to pay and what the scholarship was. We add those two together, and we're still $5,000 short. So Jonathan says, I've got an idea. What if I defer admission? I'll call the college up and have them hold my spot, and I'll go get a job and save up $5,000 that year and then go to college the next year. And yes, almost every college will hold your spot. You can defer admission. I said, well, then what are you going to do? You save up $5,000, go to school, and then take another year off and save up another $5,000 and leapfrog it and take 8 years to graduate? I said, no. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to call the college up and speak with your recruiter contact. You know who your recruiter contact is, right? Now I'm asking him loaded questions because I had already instructed him on how to develop rapport with the recruiters at these colleges. He goes, oh yeah, I know who that is. I said, I want you to call him up and I want you to say this. Thank you very much for admitting me. I really appreciate it, and I also appreciate the scholarships that you're willing to give me. And based on what my mom and dad are willing to pay for college, I'm $5,000 short. What can I do? And poof, magically another $5,000 in scholarship appeared. So not only did that college give him those extra dollars, and why did they do that? Because they knew that Jonathan would make a positive impact on their rankings. And Jonathan graduated from that college in 4 years instead of 8. So here's a couple more examples. This is Bruce's younger sister. She's going to TCU. She's got 1 more year. And over the course of 4 years, she's getting $216,000 in scholarships. That's about $50-something thousand per year. There's her brother, and Bruce got $204,000 at Notre Dame. Sister beat him out by getting $216,000. It was a fun little sibling rivalry that went on there. Here's another student going to LA Tech. He was offered 100% of tuition plus. So whatever the cost of the tuition was, he got a little bit more than that. And his parents' net cost for him to go to that school is about $8,000, which is less than going to in-state school. I love to tell this story about Chad. When Chad came into the office, I was helping him out. And I said, Chad, you've got the package. You've got what a school like Vandy wants. You've got the grades, you've got the leadership, you've got it. I think you should apply to that school. And Mom pulls me aside and says, please don't tell him to apply to Vandy, because yeah, he could get in, but we can't afford $65,000 a year. Please. I said, let's play the game. Well, the short of the long story of it is Chad got admitted, and he was offered $231,000 in scholarships over 4 years. His parents' net cost about $6,000 per year. I got a very nice email from Chad's mom after that. Here's McConnell again. He's graduating from NYU, $262,000 in scholarships over the course of 4 years. Again, here's Nicole at WashU. Here's another student at TCU, 212,000 scholarships over the course of 4 years. Here's another student at NAU, graduated 100% debt-free. Again, that is exactly where we want our students to start their lives after they finish college. So you're next. If you do the work, follow the plan, and do these things, there's a strong possibility that you will get into some really great colleges and get some amazing scholarships. How are we going to do that? We're going to do that by doing some things on purpose. And the sooner that you start, the easier it is to obtain these things. So if you've got a junior right now, a class of 2022, we got to start kicking into high gear. If you got a sophomore, yeah, we got to move into gear. If you got a freshman, now's a great time to start on this process. If you've got a 7th or 8th grader, let's have a conversation, because I have started with students as early as 7th grade. There are some specific programs designed specifically for 7th and 8th graders, and if the student gets into those programs as a 7th or 8th graders, that they start getting on the college's radars early. And we did that with this particular student. She did get a full ride. Here's what Dad said. Got a nice email from Dad. She got a full ride and didn't take out any loans. Hopefully she'll continue to have this full ride through all 4 years of college. And yes, she is on track to do that. She's finishing up her sophomore year. We already have her scholarship for her junior year all tied up in the bag. As long as she maintains her grades, she's going to get this all 4 years. So when's the best time to start? As early as 7th or 8th grade. Starting as a high school freshman or sophomore, earlier is better. Here's another example. Student was offered $39,900 in scholarships per year at Illinois. It was less expensive for him to go to this college than it would have been for him to go in-state. So I want to tell your success story. I want to help tell your student's success story. So if you've got a junior or sophomore or freshman in high school right now, as in a couple years, or for juniors, really in about 6 or 7 months, for a lot of students, there's going to be a big gaping black hole. And that black hole is, I was not able to do any clubs or volunteer because of this pandemic. Well, there's a strategic plan to fill up that black hole, that gaping hole, and that's by doing some virtual volunteering, some virtual things. If that's your student, please do have a conversation with me. We can come up with some different ideas. So, what we do at AZ College Planning is we meet students one-on-one. We also have several parent meetings to talk more on the financial side. I also host a variety of different classes. The classes are the Beat the Test class, How to Study class, How to Market Yourself class, a resume, essay class, and a couple of different parent classes, etc. So if you would like to come in for a complimentary consultation, please send me, for those of you that are online, send me an email, jd@azcollegeplanning.com. I'll post up my email address in just a moment. And when you and include a phone number on there, please, that you can be reached during the day. I'll give you a call. We'll synchronize our calendars and all that stuff. And the meeting will run about an hour. Please bring your student because I want to know if we're a good fit. And if we're a good fit, then I'll offer an extension for you to become a client. If I feel that I cannot help you, I'll point you in the right direction and say, do these things. If I say, yes, I can help you, then at that point I will offer a spot for you to become a client. And what I charge for my services is $39.97. I am very good at what I do. And when I offer a spot for someone to become a client, I already know in my head that if your student follows my plan, they're going to get in some great colleges and get some really great scholarship packages. and possibly even the coveted full ride, or even getting paid to go to college. Is it going to take work and effort to get there? Absolutely yes. And if your student's willing and coachable and follows that plan, then there is the high probability that they could earn that coveted full ride. So again, if you would like a consultation, please send me an email, jd@azcollegeplanning.com, and include your phone number and state on there, yes, my student and I would like a consultation. If you do have any questions, someone did post on there, how do we get involved with the Beat the Test class? I do host that class twice a semester. I just had it last 2 weeks ago. I will be hosting it again probably sometime in April. If you're on my email list, I will send out an email to sign up for that particular class. If you're not on my email list, go to my website, azcollegeplanning.com, click on the sign up for email, and you'll get on my list that way. Let's see if there's any other questions. I don't see any other questions. Again, if you would like a complimentary consultation, please send me an email. And if you do have any questions, please send me an email. I'll be happy to answer any of those questions. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful evening, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. All right, we're done here.
So, are you able to somebody go back and listen to that?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you do that?
I sent out an email with a link to the live stream.
Okay.
That link is the same as that live stream link is. You can watch the recording. Because you signed up for the live class, send me an email, and I'll be happy to forward you the link to the recording.
Well, my daughter actually signed me up. For
Okay.
her email, but I got an email, and I got a letter.
Okay. Oh, you did get the letter. Good.
Yeah, I got the letter.
I wasn't sure if it was going to arrive
she
in
just
time.
did it like the other day.
Okay. Oh, let me hang up on YouTube here.
So when you say $39.97 is your fee, is that per hour?